A Roman Mosaic floor is far more than just a beautiful picture. These intricate artworks are actually secret message boards, cleverly designed by their creators to communicate hidden beliefs, political statements, and personal stories right underfoot. By the end of this journey, you will be able to see past the glittering surface and read the coded language of ancient Rome. We will uncover why a lavish feast scene might be a grim warning about death, and how a chaotic gladiator battle could be a political campaign poster. What do you think your own floor would secretly say about you? To read these secret messages, you first need to learn the alphabet. For the Romans, this alphabet was made of animals, plants, and gods. A dolphin weaving through the waves was not just a charming sea creature. It was a potent symbol for a safe journey, or even a guide leading a soul to the afterlife. A proud peacock, with its iridescent tail, was a direct declaration of immortality and was often used to honor the empress herself. These images were not random decorations. They were a sophisticated visual language, a kind of symbolic shorthand that any educated Roman viewer was expected to understand. The meaning of these symbols, however, was not fixed. It shifted dramatically depending on the room you were standing in. The same image of a fierce wolf, for instance, held a completely different message in a public bathhouse compared to a family tomb. In one context, it might evoke the proud legend of Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome. In the other, it could be a grim guardian of the dead. Every single element placed into a mosaic floor, from the grandest god to the humblest flower, was potentially loaded with intention. This transforms a beautiful floor into a complex text, one that was meant to be read, not just seen. One of the most brilliant and unsettling examples of this hidden language is a mosaic known as the Unswept Floor. Created by the artist Heracleitos, it is a masterpiece of illusion. At first glance, it appears you are standing in a dining room after an extravagant party. The floor is littered with the vivid remains of the feast. You can see fish bones, empty snail shells, chicken legs, cherry pits, and even the delicate husks of nuts, all rendered with such startling realism that you might feel you could bend down and pick them up. The immediate message is one of immense wealth and hospitality. It proudly declares that the host is so rich, he can afford to have such delicacies consumed and casually discarded. But look closer, past the initial display of opulence. Those scattered bones and hollow shells are not just evidence of a good time, they are a stark reminder of consumption and decay. This is the secret message woven into the floor. It functions as a memento mori, a Latin phrase meaning remember you must die. Every single scrap is a symbol of life's fleeting nature. The luxurious feast has ended, the food has been consumed, and all that remains is refuse. It is a quiet, philosophical critique aimed directly at the Roman elite and their culture of excessive banqueting. The mosaic whispers a warning against vanity and the empty pursuit of pleasure, suggesting that all such earthly indulgences will, in the end, turn to dust and bones beneath our feet. A simple floor becomes a profound moral statement, challenging every guest who walks upon it to consider the true cost of their luxury. While the unswept floor whispered a quiet warning about mortality, other mosaics shouted a very different kind of message, one of raw power and political ambition. Step into the villa of a wealthy Roman patron, and you might find the floor alive with the brutal energy of the arena. These are not simple depictions of violence. They are intricate portraits of gladiators in combat, each fighter type meticulously rendered with their distinct armor and weapons. You see the heavily armored Murmillo with his fish-crested helmet, facing off against the nimble Retiarius with his trident and net. Every detail, from the glint on a sword to the strain in a fighter's pose, is captured in shimmering stone. The immediate impression is one of thrilling spectacle, a permanent celebration of Rome's most popular pastime. But look beyond the blood and sand. For the man who owned this villa, this mosaic was his resume. Commissioning gladiators for the public games was an incredibly expensive undertaking, a direct form of patronage that bought immense popularity. By embedding this scene in his floor, the owner was making a bold, unspoken claim to every guest. He was declaring, "I am the kind of man who can fund this entertainment. I have the wealth, and the influence to win the favor of the people. In the fiercely competitive world of Roman politics, this was a crucial advertisement. A specific gladiator's victorious stance, arm raised in triumph over fallen opponent, could serve as a direct allegory for the patron's own political victories or his ambitions to overcome rivals. The floor was not just decorated with fighters, it was a sophisticated political campaign, a permanent argument for his fitness for public office, laid out for all to walk upon and understand. But the messages in mosaics were not always about politics or mortality. Sometimes they offered a vision of perfect peace. In many Roman villas, you would find a floor depicting the mythical musician Orpheus. He sits calmly, cradling his lyre, surrounded by a captivated audience of lions, wolves, deer, and birds. The scene is one of profound tranquility, a world where natural enemies lay down their instincts to listen in harmony. At its surface, this is a beautiful illustration of a famous myth, a testament to the power of art and music. Yet for a Roman initiate of a secret mystery religion known as Orphism, this mosaic was far more than a pretty picture. It was a sacred text in tile. In the beliefs of Orphism, the human soul was trapped in a physical body, a wild and chaotic prison of base desires and passions. The enchanting music of Orpheus was not meant for little animals. It was a powerful symbol for the sacred teachings and rituals of the cult. This divine knowledge had the power to tame the wild beasts within the human spirit, to quiet anger, greed, and fear, and to bring spiritual order to internal chaos. The serene scene on the floor visualized the believer's own hoped-for journey toward enlightenment and salvation. A peaceful soul, having mastered its inner turmoil, could finally achieve unity with the divine. So why would a Roman homeowner choose to display such a deeply personal religious belief right there on the floor for guests to walk on? Openly declaring allegiance to one of these mystery cults could be socially risky. By encoding his faith within a popular myth, the owner could secretly signal his spiritual affiliations to fellow initiates who would instantly understand the hidden meaning, while to everyone else, it remained simply a lovely, harmonious scene. His floor became a private declaration of a quest for inner peace, a secret he walked upon every single day. Perhaps the most spectacular example of this coded language is a floor that captures a single, breathless moment in time. In the Grand House of the Faun in Pompeii, visitors walked across the epic Battle of Issus, a sprawling mosaic showing Alexander the Great locked in combat with the Persian King Darius III. The sheer scale and artistic brilliance are staggering. A frozen explosion of charging horses, clashing spears, and terrified faces. On the surface, this is a celebration of a famous Greek military victory, a historical masterpiece imported from the Hellenistic world. But for the Roman aristocrat who owned this house, the message was deeply personal and profoundly contemporary. Displaying this Greek scene was the ultimate sign of sophistication. It declared his education, his worldliness, and his appreciation for high Greek culture, the very pinnacle of civilized taste. He was aligning himself with the genius and heroism of Alexander. Yet this was not mere hero worship. Look at the mosaic through Roman eyes. The Persian army, for all its numbers, is depicted in a state of panicked disarray. Darius himself stretches out a hand in a gesture of desperate retreat, his face a mask of fear as his own charioteer whips the horses to flee. This chaos served as a powerful political allegory for a Roman viewer. It visually reinforced the perceived weakness of Eastern empires, a narrative that perfectly justified Rome's own expanding imperial ambitions across the same territories. The mosaic was not just a picture of a past battle, it was a model for future conquest and a clear statement about Roman superiority. By walking on this floor, the owner was not just remembering history. He was participating in it, aligning his own identity and political aspirations with the unstoppable force of a conquering hero, making his home a stage for his own worldview. Even the most intricate animal or battle scene was often surrounded by a silent, mathematical dance. Look past the central image in a Roman mosaic, and your eyes will trace the endless coils of a guillotch, the interlocking right angles of a meander, or the spinning hooks of what we now call a swastika. For centuries, We dismiss these patterns as mere decorative borders, beautiful but ultimately empty frames for the main artistic event. But what if we have been reading these floors all wrong? A growing theory suggests these geometric designs are not decoration at all. They are secret cosmic maps, the relentless, unbroken line of a guillotine, weaving over and under itself in an infinite loop, becomes a powerful symbol of eternity. The complex, puzzle-like path of a meander, a pattern also known as a Greek key, transforms into a metaphorical labyrinth, representing the twisting, turning journey of a human life toward a hidden center. And the dynamic, rotating swastika, a sacred symbol in the ancient world long before its modern corruption, embodied the perpetual motion of the sun and the cycles of creation. When you piece these symbols together, a simple geometric border ceases to be just a frame. It becomes a miniature model of the entire cosmos, a diagram of an orderly, infinite, and divinely structured universe. So what did it mean for a Roman family to walk across this cosmic diagram every single day? It was a profound act of philosophical alignment. By embedding these patterns into their floors, they were not just decorating their home. They were actively harmonizing their domestic space with the fundamental order of the world. Their very household was grounded upon a representation of eternal truth. Every step across a meander was a reminder that their personal journey was part of a grand cosmic design. Every glance at an endless guillotine reinforced a belief in the everlasting nature of the soul. This transformed the entire home from a mere shelter into a sacred microcosm, a small piece of the universe where human life and divine order existed in perfect silent balance. The floor beneath their feet was a constant, quiet meditation on their place in an infinite world. Even the most powerful symbol was never meant to be read in isolation. Its true meaning was dictated by its precise location within the Roman home. Think of the house itself as a book, with each room a different chapter, and the floor mosaics as the specific text written for that space. A visitor's journey from the public entrance to the most private chambers was a carefully curated experience, with the floors beneath their feet telling a story that shifted in tone and intention with every step. The grand atrium, or entrance hall, was the family's public face. Here, the mosaic was a billboard of status. You might be greeted by a fierce watchdog rendered in tile, a clear warning to unwanted guests, or a complex scene of a victorious general receiving tribute. Every tessera was chosen to communicate power, wealth, and noble lineage to anyone who crossed the threshold. This is not a space for subtle personal reflection. It was a declaration of identity aimed squarely at the outside world. Move deeper into the house, to the private cubiculum or bedroom, and the language of the floor changes completely. In this intimate space, far from the judging eyes of visitors, the mosaic became a personal diary. A scene of the goddess Venus might appear, but here she was not the public symbol of idealized beauty. In the bedroom, she was a potent emblem of love, fertility, and physical intimacy, a blessing for the private lives of the couple who slept there. The same image of Venus, placed in a different room, would whisper a completely different secret. In the bustling dining room, or triclinium, the mosaic's purpose transformed again. This was the stage for hospitality and philosophical debate. Floors here often overflowed with images of bounty, like a sprawling scene of a grape harvest promising fine wine, or a mythological banquet of the gods, inviting guests to partake in a divine feast. The message was one of generosity and cultured entertainment, designed to make visitors feel both welcomed and impressed by the host's sophistication. So a single symbol, like a dolphin, could be a public wish for safe travels in an entryway, a private token of love in a bedroom, or a celebratory nod to the sea's bounty in a dining room. The tile itself was just a word. It was the room that gave it its sentence, its true and hidden meaning. This silent dance of geometric patterns leads us to a deeper mystery, the strange repetition of certain faces and forms. Why would the terrifying, snake-haired head of Medusa stare up from so many floors? A permanent fixture of domestic horror, this was not a simple decoration. Known as a gorgonean, this fearsome mask served a vital, hidden purpose. It was an apotropaic symbol, a powerful charm designed to ward off evil, The Romans believed that a malevolent spirit crossing the threshold would see its own monstrous reflection in Medusa's grimace and be so frightened it would flee. The very thing meant to terrify humans was, in fact, a protective shield for the home, turning the floor into a first line of defense. This logic of protection extended to more abstract patterns. Look at the intricate looping strands of Solomon's knot, a design of interwoven lines with no beginning and no end. Its endless path was a clear symbol of eternity, but its tight, unbroken bonds were also believed to trap and neutralize negative energy, functioning as a spiritual net. Other repeating motifs acted as silent identifiers. A wealthy merchant might have the image of a ship laden with goods recurring throughout his villa. This was his personal brand, a hidden logo announcing the source of his fortune to those who could read the signs. Every time he walked across that ship, he was reinforcing his own identity and success. These repeating patterns were not mindless decoration. They were personal and spiritual shields, embedded into the very fabric of the home to operate constantly and silently, guarding both the soul and the society of those who lived within. Even the artisans who laid these stone stories one by one sometimes left their own secret signature. In a quiet corner of a Roman villa, you might find a small, unassuming inscription. A name like Vitalis worked directly into the border of a mosaic. At first, it seems like just a maker's mark, a simple credit, but look deeper. Vitalis was not merely signing his work like a receipt, he was carving his identity into eternity. In a society where most artisans were anonymous laborers, this act was a bold declaration of pride. He was saying, "My hands created this beauty, my skill brought these gods and heroes to life. This floor is my legacy." For a man like Vitalis, that single name woven into the design was his only chance to defy obscurity, to achieve a form of immortality and whisper, "I was here," to anyone who would ever look down. Yet the commissioner of the mosaic could leave their name too, and their message was entirely different. When a wealthy patron paid to have their name inscribed on the floor of a public bath or a temple, it was not about artistry. It was a permanent billboard. This was a declaration of ownership in the most profound sense. It shouted, "I paid for this. I am the one who brought this beauty and utility to our community. My generosity and piety are now literally set in stone." Such an inscription was a powerful tool for securing social status, for ensuring that their reputation for wealth and virtue would outlive them. Suddenly, a beautiful geometric pattern or a scene of ocean nymphs is transformed. It is no longer just a generic decoration, it becomes a historical document, a frozen moment of human ambition. That single name, Vitalis, secretly shouts across the centuries, telling a dual story of creative pride and social climbing. It turns the entire floor into a personal diary entry, written not with ink, but with countless colored stones, preserving a fleeting life for all of time. A god of wine and chaos was also a guide to the afterlife. Step into a Roman triclinium, and you might find the floor consumed by a whirlwind of frenzied celebration. The god Bacchus, also known as Dionysus, presides over the scene, his expression serene amid the surrounding tumult. His followers, the Maenads, whirl in divine madness, their hair wild, their bodies draped in animal skins as they dance to an unheard rhythm. Satyrs, with the legs and horns of goats, leap and play their flutes, their expressions a mix of mischief and rapture. Clusters of ripe grapes hang heavy from vines that seem to twist and grow right out of the floor, and panthers, the god's sacred animal, pad quietly through the undergrowth. The immediate impression is one of pure, unbridled hedonism, a permanent, wild party captured in stone. But for a Roman initiate of a Dionysian mystery cult, this vibrant chaos was not about literal intoxication. It was a sacred map of the soul's journey. The ecstatic dance of the Maenads represented the liberation of the human spirit from the confines of the mortal body. The crushing of the grapes was a powerful metaphor for the suffering and transformation necessary for spiritual rebirth. This entire scene of revelry was a coded promise of an ecstatic afterlife, a belief that through communion with the god, one's soul could achieve a state of blessed freedom beyond death. So why would a wealthy Roman risk displaying such a provocative scene in his home? The cult of Bacchus offered a powerful, personal connection to the divine that the official state religion often lacked. But its secretive and ecstatic nature made the Roman authorities deeply suspicious. At times, participation was even actively persecuted. By embedding these symbols into his floor, the owner was performing a dangerous balancing act. To the uninitiated guest, it was simply a fashionable, if wild, decoration, but to a fellow initiate, it was a silent, powerful signal. It whispered, "I am one of you." This is not just a dining room, it is a sacred space where we understand the true mystery. The god of wine becomes a god of salvation, and the wildest party you have ever seen transforms into a vision of eternal peace. Nowhere is this duality more beautifully illustrated than in the shimmering world of marine mosaics. Picture a floor awash in deep blues and greens, a vibrant ecosystem of sea creatures captured in stone. Playful dolphins leap between waves, octopuses stretch their tentacles across the sand, and schools of fish dart through forests of seaweed. Often, the sea nymphs known as nereids are seen gracefully riding on the backs of sea creatures, their forms fluid and eternal. At first glance, this is a celebration of the ocean's boundless life and beauty, a tranquil and decorative scene, but step into a Roman tomb, and the entire meaning of this aquatic paradise shifts into something far more profound. Here, the vast, unknowable ocean becomes a powerful symbol for the journey of the soul after death. It represented the great transition, the mysterious waters one had to cross to reach the afterlife. In this sacred funerary context, the cheerful dolphin was no longer just a charming animal. It transformed into a psychopomp, a spiritual guide whose role was to safely escort the soul through the perilous waters of the unknown, leading it to a peaceful shore in the next world. Every shell and every wave was part of this hidden map of the afterlife, a promise of safe passage. Yet walk into a public bathhouse, and you would find the very same theme. The same dolphins, the same nereids, the same swirling waters. But here, the secret message was entirely different. The marine mosaic reinforced the literal purpose of the building. It was a celebration of water itself, the very element that made the baths a place of cleansing, health, and social life. The ocean scene created an immersive, thematic environment that was both aesthetically pleasing and perfectly logical for its setting. This is the genius of the Roman visual language. The same artistic theme, the same beautiful fish and guiding dolphins, could whisper a profound spiritual secret about the soul's eternal journey in one space, while simply celebrating the refreshing nature of water in another. The meaning was never in the image alone. It was hidden in the room for which it was created, waiting for the right viewer to understand its silent, sacred code. But who were the true storytellers whispering through these stones? The grand patrons who commissioned the floors are remembered, yet the hands that actually placed each tessera often belonged to forgotten artisans, many of them slaves or freedmen. These Mosaicists were the true authors of the secret messages we tried to decode. They were the ones who decided the exact curve of a dolphin's smile or the fierce intensity in a gladiator's eyes. While they worked to fulfill a wealthy patron's vision, they possessed their own artistry, their own beliefs, and a deep desire to be remembered. Think of the simple, powerful act of signing a floor. A name like Vitalis or Felix worked into a border was far more than a craftsman's mark. For a man who was legally considered property, inscribing his name into a permanent work of art was a radical act of self. It was his only way to carve an identity into eternity, to shout across the centuries, "I was here, and I made this." But what about the countless artists who were never allowed such a blatant signature? Many scholars now believe these anonymous masters left their marks in a different way, through a unique visual handwriting. Look closely at mosaics from the same region or time period. You might notice a recurring fondness for a particular shade of deep blue glass, a specific way of rendering the texture of an animal's fur, or a quirky, consistent method for depicting a leaf. These are not random choices. They are the subtle stylistic flourishes of an individual artist. A specific, intricate way of weaving a guilloche border might be the calling card of a master mosaicist whose name is lost to history. His team would have carried his techniques from villa to villa, embedding his artistic signature into every floor they laid. This means the hidden messages we see were always filtered through the minds and hands of these skilled individuals. When a patron demanded a scene celebrating his power, the Mosaicist executing it might have subtly adjusted a defeated enemy's expression from one of terror to one of pity. He could have woven a humble flower, symbolic of his own personal hopes, into the corner of a grand military scene. The floor becomes a collaborative text, a dialogue between the boastful ambition of the owner and the silent, skilled commentary of the maker. Every mosaic, therefore, holds two layers of secrets. One is the public message intended by the patron. The other is the private, unspoken story of the artist who breathed life into the stone, leaving his own quiet legacy for us to find. The tragedy of Pompeii gave us an unprecedented key to this hidden language. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, it did not merely destroy a city, it froze an entire society in place, preserving the precise context of every Mosaic message. Walking at stone streets today is like reading a book where every page is still open. In the grand entrance hall of the house of the tragic poet, you are greeted by a lifelike mosaic of a chained dog, its body tensed, with the clear Latin words spelled out beneath it, Cave Canem. Beware of the dog. This is not a subtle symbol. It is a direct public announcement, a warning to any visitor about the very real guardian within, establishing the homeowner's authority the moment you step inside. Yet just down the street, a very different kind of message was embedded in the sidewalk. A simple, graphic image of a phallus was not a crude graffiti tag. It was a clever, universally understood commercial sign, pointing the way to a nearby tavern or brothel, a hidden advertisement for pleasure and business tucked into the urban landscape. Pompeii reveals that mosaics were not confined to the villas of the elite. They formed a city-wide communication network. In one home, an intricate mosaic depicts the myth of Daedalus and Icarus, a complex warning about the dangers of hubris and ambition meant for cultured guests to ponder. In another, a practical image of a skeleton carrying two wine jugs reminds banqueters to enjoy life while they can. Every floor, from the most public to the most private, was actively speaking. The volcanic ash sealed these conversations, allowing us to see the full spectrum of this coded language, from the overt status symbol to the covert directional sign, all working together to guide, warn, and define life in a bustling Roman city. This same need for a hidden language became a matter of survival for the earliest followers of another faith. Deep beneath the streets of Rome, in the labyrinthine catacombs, the first Christian mosaics were not displays of wealth, but declarations of faith made in secret. Here, in the silent darkness of burial chambers, the art form transforms into a visual code. The images are startlingly simple. A single fish swims through a sea of stone. A young shepherd carries a lamb upon his shoulders. A simple, sturdy anchor rests against a blank background. To any Roman official conducting a routine inspection, these appeared to be nothing more than harmless, generic decoration. But to a fellow Christian, they were the most profound truths of their belief, hidden in plain sight. That fish, known as the ichthys, was far more than a sea creature. It was a brilliant acronym. Each letter of the Greek word for fish, iota chi theta upsilon sigma, stood for the phrase Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. To draw a fish on a wall or in a mosaic was to secretly write the core of their creed, a dangerous statement of devotion that could never be spoken aloud in public. The gentle image of the Good Shepherd was similarly safe. To the Roman eye, it was merely a common pastoral scene, a celebration of rustic life, but for the Christian, it was a powerful and immediate representation of Christ himself, the guardian and savior of his flock, promising salvation and care. Even the anchor was a clever disguise. While a practical symbol of safety to any sailor, for this persecuted community it symbolized the steadfastness of their hope in Christ, an anchor for the soul in a world of turmoil and danger. These Mosaic symbols were not just art. They were a clandestine network of worship and identity. In the face of potential betrayal and persecution, these quiet images allowed believers to recognize one another, to strengthen their community, and to affirm their most sacred beliefs while standing in the very chambers of the dead. They were embedding their hope for eternal life directly into the walls that housed their departed, turning tombs into the first secret churches. That desperate need for a hidden code did not last forever. A single political decision would transform the secret language of the fish into a public declaration of glory. When the Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity, the faith exploded from the catacombs into the open air, and its art underwent a revolution. The simple, symbolic mosaics of the persecuted were no longer enough. In the vast new basilicas and imperial mausoleums, like Rome's Santa Costanza, the floors and ceilings began to tell a new kind of story. The hidden fish was replaced by the direct, powerful figure of Christ himself, no longer a shepherd but a majestic ruler, the Pantocrator, or ruler of all. He sits enthroned, often holding a book of scripture, his gaze both stern and all-knowing. Surrounding him are not cryptic signs, but clear, legible scenes from the Bible, laid out like a visual catechism for a population that was still largely illiterate. The secret message had changed entirely. It was no longer about hiding. It was about teaching, convincing, and proclaiming a new world order. This art became a tool of massive theological instruction, and just as importantly, a blunt instrument of imperial propaganda. The emperor who supported the church was aligning his own power with the divine power of God, and the Mosaics made that alliance visible to every citizen who walked in. But the most breathtaking element of these new Mosaics was the background itself. Look up in the churches of Ravenna, like the Basilica of San Vitale, and you are not looking at a blue sky or a natural landscape. You are gazing into an endless, shimmering sea of gold. This is not merely a decorative choice to show off wealth, though it certainly did that. That dazzling gold was a deliberate theological statement. It represented the divine, heavenly realm itself, a space outside of time and nature, flooded with the uncreated light of God. The figures of Christ, the saints, and even the emperor and empress are not standing on the earth. They are suspended in this golden eternity. The message was one of overwhelming power. The church was no longer a hidden sect. It was a cosmic force, and its glory, now fused with the might of the Roman Empire, was meant to awe you, to humble you, and to leave no doubt in your mind about the supreme authority of this new state faith. The Mosaic had transformed from a whispered secret between friends into a shout of triumph that echoed across the heavens. These private chambers held some of the most intimate secrets of the Roman home. Walk into a wealthy couple's bedroom, and you might find the floor itself telling a story of love and union, often through the passionate embrace of the gods Venus and Mars. The goddess of love and the god of war are shown entangled, their weapons and robes cast aside, a powerful image of desire and reconciliation. On the surface, this seems like a straightforward depiction of a famous myth, a celebration of physical passion. But its true meaning, hidden within the privacy of the bedroom, was far more profound. This was not mere decoration for titillation. It was a symbolic blessing for the room's occupant. The union of Venus and Mars represented the ideal of marital harmony, the beautiful and necessary balance between love and conflict, softness and strength. In a culture where marriages were frequently arranged for political or economic advantage, this mosaic served as a potent visual prayer for genuine affection, fertility, and domestic bliss to flourish within the union. It transformed the private act of love from a simple duty into a sacred, harmonious ideal, blessed by the gods themselves. Yet this same visual language could whisper a completely different message just a few streets away. In the context of a brothel, an erotic mosaic was not an idealistic blessing. It was a practical piece of commercial communication. A specific scene depicting a certain act or position was not a mythological allegory. It functioned as a clear, universally understood menu of the services available within. In a society with varying levels of literacy, this visual shorthand was an efficient and direct way to set expectations for patrons, leaving no room for misunderstanding. The same image of entangled bodies could, therefore, hold two opposing secrets. In the bedroom, it was a hopeful prayer for love within a sanctioned partnership. In the brothel, it was a blunt advertisement for transactional pleasure. This duality is the genius of the Roman visual code. It allowed society to communicate about the most intimate aspects of human life through a shared set of symbols, maintaining public decorum while ensuring that behind closed doors, everyone understood exactly what was being said. The floor erupts into a whirlwind of dust, muscle, and terror. In the grand villas of Roman North Africa, one of the most popular Mosaic themes was the hunt, a breathtakingly violent spectacle frozen in stone. These are not peaceful pastoral scenes. They are chaotic, meticulously detailed narratives of the chase and capture of exotic beasts for the arena. You see a lion, its mouth a roar of defiance, pinned by spear. A leopard twists in a net, its spotted coat a blur of frantic motion. Powerful bulls are entangled by ropes as hunters on horseback and foot press in for the kill. Every straining sinew, every panicked eye, and every drop of blood implied in the scene is rendered with chilling precision. The immediate message is one of raw, untamed action, a celebration of human daring against the most dangerous creatures on earth. But this was the ultimate Roman flex. For the villa owner, this floor was his personal trophy case. Capturing and transporting these animals from the farthest reaches of the empire was an astronomically expensive endeavor, a logistical nightmare that only the super rich could afford. By depicting this savage ballet on his floor, the owner was declaring, "I command the resources to bring the wilderness itself to Rome. I am the man who funds this spectacle for the people." His wealth was not just displayed in gold coins, it was demonstrated by his power over nature itself. The Mosaic shouted of his courage, even if that courage was exercised by hired hunters on his behalf. It positioned him as a crucial agent of civilization, the one who subdued the wild chaos of the natural world and delivered it as ordered entertainment for the masses. This was a permanent record of his vital role in the social hierarchy. Yet for a more philosophical viewer, the scene held a second, deeper secret. The struggle between the disciplined hunters and the rampaging beasts could be read as a powerful allegory for the human condition. The wild animals represented the untamed passions within the soul, the raw instincts of anger, desire, and fear that every person had to conquer. The successful hunt, therefore, was not just a physical victory. It was a symbol of the soul's hard-won triumph over its own base nature, a metaphor for the self-control and virtue that defined a truly civilized Roman man. So a single, chaotic hunting scene secretly communicated two things at once. It was a boast of immense earthly power and social status, and a quiet, philosophical meditation on the eternal struggle for inner mastery. Those silent geometric patterns hold a deeper secret than cosmic order. They might be sophisticated mathematical diagrams. Look at a floor laid out in a perfect, repeating grid of octagons and squares. To the untrained eye, it is simply a beautiful, complex design. But to a Roman scholar educated in Pythagorean philosophy, this was a visual representation of sacred numerical ratios. The Pythagoreans believed that numbers were the divine language of the universe, and that harmony in music, art, and architecture was achieved through exact mathematical proportions. A Mosaic pattern based on the square root of 2, for instance, was not just a pleasing arrangement. It was a meditation on the fundamental, irrational structure of reality itself, a concept both thrilling and terrifying to the ancient mind. These designs were philosophical arguments written in tile, a way for a learned patron to demonstrate his grasp of the world's hidden mathematical fabric. This intellectual code extends to three-dimensional forms pressed flat into the floor. Scattered across the Roman world are mosaics depicting what appear to be intricate, multi-faceted geometric objects. Modern scholars recognize these as the Platonic solids, the 5 perfect three-dimensional shapes whose every face, edge, and angle is identical. There is the tetrahedron, the cube, the octahedron, the dodecahedron, and the icosahedron. The Greek philosopher Plato himself had linked each of these perfect solids to a fundamental element of the universe. Fire was the tetrahedron, earth the cube, air the octahedron, and water the icosahedron. The mysterious dodecahedron, with its 12 pentagonal faces, was reserved for the cosmos itself. To depict these shapes on a floor was an astonishingly bold intellectual act. It was a declaration that the homeowner understood the very building blocks of creation. His villa was not just a shelter, it was a model of the universe, with every element represented in perfect geometric harmony beneath his feet. Look up from the floor and then look back down, for some mosaics seem to mirror the night sky. In certain villas, you find circular designs populated by familiar figures. A powerful bull, a heroic hunter, a menacing scorpion, these are not random animal scenes, they are precise depictions of the constellations. A mosaic in the center of a room might show the zodiac, the band of constellations through which the sun appears to travel throughout the year. But why place a star chart on the floor? One compelling theory suggests these are more than decorative calendars. They could have functioned as actual astronomical tools. The precise orientation of the mosaic to the cardinal directions, combined with sunlight streaming through a specific window at a certain time of day, might have marked solstices, equinoxes, or important festival date. The floor itself becomes a giant, fixed sundial and observatory, tracking the passage of time and the movements of the gods in the heavens. This transforms the entire Roman home into a secret academy. In a world without printed books or public universities, the exchange of high-level philosophical and scientific ideas was a private, elite affair. A patron who commissioned such a mosaic was creating a conversation piece for his learned guest. He was building a private library of knowledge, but one written in a code of geometry and myth that only the initiated could fully decipher. Walking across a Pythagorean grid, a guest might pause and discuss the nature of numerical harmony. Studying a depicted dodecahedron could spark a deep conversation about Plato's cosmology. A glance at the zodiac mosaic on the floor could lead to a debate about astrology and fate. These floors were not passive decorations, they were active teaching tools, silent lecturers that prompted discussion and displayed the owner's intellectual status as clearly as any gladiator mosaic displayed his wealth. The home became a sanctuary for the mind, a place where the secrets of the universe were explored one tessera at a time. Yet even amidst this riot of color, some of the most powerful messages were whispered in stark black and white. Walk into a 2nd century Roman villa in Ostia, or Rome itself, and you might find the floor has surrendered its vibrant palette. In its place is a world of dramatic contrast, where figures and patterns are rendered solely in dark stone against a brilliant white marble background. The effect is immediate and graphic, like a powerful ink drawing on a vast, luminous canvas. Every line is sharp, every shadow defined, and every form is stripped down to its essential, powerful outline. On the surface, this seems like a straightforward question of economics. Colored stones, and even more so, the brilliant glass tesserae, were incredibly expensive to source and import. Limiting a mosaic to locally available black and white stone was undoubtedly a more budget-friendly choice. But in the competitive world of Roman interior design, a simple cost-saving measure would never have been enough. What began as frugality was quickly transformed into a sophisticated aesthetic statement. The minimalist choice became the height of fashion. The stark contrast created a sense of modern elegance and dramatic intensity that a busy, colorful scene could sometimes lack. A mythological hero wrestling a sea monster, rendered in this graphic style, feels more immediate, more like a timeless legend carved into the stone. It focuses the eye entirely on the action, the emotion, and the raw power of the story being told. But could this absence of color carry a deeper, symbolic weight? Think about the fundamental duality these floors present: black and white, darkness and light, the void and the illuminated. In a culture deeply concerned with philosophy and the nature of existence, this visual contrast could easily map onto the great dualities of life and death, or ignorance and enlightenment. A black and white mosaic in a tomb, for instance, might secretly represent the soul's transition from the darkness of the mortal world into the pure white light of the afterlife. In a library or study, the same monochrome scheme could symbolize the clear, binary pursuit of truth, cutting through the confusing colors of falsehood. The floor becomes a philosophical chessboard, its very lack of color speaking volumes about the owner's worldview. So the next time you see one of these striking black and white floors, ask yourself what its silence is truly saying. Is it the proud declaration of a practical man who turned necessity into a virtue? Is it the fashionable choice of a trendsetter who understood the power of minimalist drama? Or is it the quiet confession of a philosopher who saw the entire universe reflected in the simple, profound struggle between dark and light? But what happens when you pause and look at the very edge of the scene? Zoom in past the battling gods and the cosmic diagrams to the intricate borders that frame every mosaic. These are not just decorative finishing touches like the trim on a modern picture frame. They are an integral part of the message, a secret language all their own. Consider a border made of twisting ivy leaves, their vines endlessly intertwining. This was sacred to Bacchus, the god of wine and ecstatic release. When such a border frames a central scene, it doesn't just decorate it. It encloses the entire image within a context of eternal life, unending celebration, and divine frenzy, setting a tone of mystical joy before your eyes even reach the main subject. Or look at a wave pattern, a rhythmic series of curling crests and troughs. When it surrounds a marine mosaic of dolphins and sea nymphs, it does more than just contain the scene aesthetically. It symbolically represents the shoreline itself, the final boundary between the safe, known world of the land and the vast, mysterious, and often dangerous realm of the ocean and the afterlife. This border becomes a liminal space, a visual representation of a threshold. Then there is the egg and dart, a sophisticated pattern of alternating ovals and sharp arrows. This was not a random geometric choice. The egg is an ancient symbol of life and potential, while the dart or spearhead symbolizes directed energy and action. Together, they create a powerful rhythm of creation and assertion, of life force and purpose, perfectly framing a scene meant to convey power and permanence, perhaps in a government building or an imperial villa. These borders function as visual punctuation marks for the entire mosaic. A gentle and meandering vine might act like a lyrical parenthesis, suggesting a personal, reflective story within. A bold, stark key pattern could serve as a definitive period, declaring the central image as an absolute and unchangeable truth. The frame secretly guides your interpretation, priming you to see the central scene not as a standalone picture, but as a concept contained within a specific philosophical or spiritual context. It tells you how to feel about what you are seeing, whispering its instructions from the periphery, long before you have fully comprehended the story at the center. Even the most quintessentially Roman floor was often built with borrowed symbols. As legions conquered and trade routes snaked across the known world, they brought back more than just gold and spices. They brought home a treasure trove of foreign images, and these exotic motifs were swiftly woven into the very fabric of Roman domestic life. A Persian lion, once a symbol of royal power in the East, now found itself prowling the floors of a Pompeian villa. The mythical griffin, a creature of Scythian legend with the body of a lion and the head of an eagle, stood guard in Roman entryways, and from the sands of Egypt came the most potent symbol of all, the magnificent phoenix. To the Egyptians, this was the Bennu bird, a sacred creature associated with the sun god Ra and the cyclical flooding of the Nile, representing creation and rebirth. But when a Roman Mosaics set this glorious bird into a floor, its meaning underwent a subtle but profound transformation. The phoenix was no longer just an exotic wonder. It was co-opted, becoming a powerful emblem of the eternal and unstoppable Roman Empire itself. Its cyclical death and rebirth were reinterpreted as a promise that Rome, too, would continually renew itself and endure forever. This was the secret mechanism of Roman power laid bare in their art. They did not simply copy foreign symbols. They absorbed them, stripped them of their original cultural context, and repurposed them to reinforce their own identity and worldview. A lion from a Persian tapestry was no longer a symbol of a rival king's authority. On a Roman floor, it became a universal representation of the empire's own untamable strength and courage. This cultural appropriation was a form of silent conquest. By placing these subjugated symbols underfoot, the Roman homeowner was making a bold statement. He was declaring that the wonders of the entire world were now part of Rome's dominion, their meanings rewritten to tell a single, unifying story of Roman superiority. The mosaic floor became a map of the empire, not of geography, but of influence, a constant reminder that all cultures were now ingredients in the vast, simmering pot of Roman identity. A Roman mosaic in a conquered land always tells two stories. On the surface, it speaks the language of the empire, a declaration of Roman taste and order. But if you listen closely, you can sometimes hear a whisper of the old world, a quiet protest from the people who were forced to adopt this new way of life. Far from Rome, in the misty provinces of Britain and Gaul, the floors of local chieftains and wealthy merchants began to shimmer with imported designs. They showed classical gods and perfect geometric borders, just as they did in Italy, yet tucked within these obedient patterns, a careful observer might find a stubborn survivor, a Celtic triskelion, its three spiraling arms a symbol of eternal motion and life, woven right into the corner of a Roman key pattern. To the Roman governor visiting for a feast, it was just a bit of local flair, a charmingly primitive decoration. But to the family who walked on it every day, it was a hidden anchor to their ancestral beliefs, a secret knot of identity that refused to be untied. This was not open rebellion. It was a subtle, brilliant act of cultural preservation, using the conqueror's own art form to keep a native soul alive. The same quiet defiance appears in the gods themselves. A mosaic from Roman Britain might show the powerful figure of Mars, the Roman god of war, standing tall in his armor. But look at the details. His features are softer, his posture less rigid, and at his feet you might find the native god Cassidius, a local deity of the northern forests, depicted not as a separate figure, but almost as an aspect of the Roman god himself. Was this simply an attempt to fit in, to make Roman rule more palatable by blending it with familiar spirits? Or was it a profound statement of syncretism, a way of saying our gods are still here, they have simply put on a Roman mask to survive? The message is deliberately ambiguous, a carefully calculated act of dual loyalty. It allowed the local ruler to present a compliant face to his Roman overlords, while secretly reassuring his own people that their heart and their gods had not been entirely conquered. Every time he walked across that floor, he was performing a delicate balancing act, publicly honoring Rome while privately honoring his heritage, a silent protest embedded in the very stones that symbolized his submission. The fall of Rome did not shatter the language of its floors. Instead, the secret code was carefully gathered up by the artists of a new era who gave its ancient symbols a powerful Christian voice. Walk into the shimmering interior of a Byzantine church, and you are surrounded by the direct descendants of Roman Mosaic art. The same peacock that once strutted across a Roman villa floor, its tail a declaration of imperial immortality, now stands solemnly in a church apse. Its meaning has been transfigured. For the Christian faithful, the peacock's flesh was believed to be incorruptible, and its spectacular annual molting and regrowth became a perfect symbol of the resurrection of the body and the eternal life of the soul through Christ. The classical symbol of worldly power was reborn as a promise of heavenly salvation. Even the simple vine scroll, a common Roman border representing the bounty of Bacchus, was baptized into a new purpose. Its twisting, fruit-laden tendrils now symbolize Christ's own words, "I am the vine, you are the branches," transforming a pagan motif of celebration into a profound emblem of spiritual connection and the community of the church. This is not a rejection of the old visual language, but a brilliant repurposing of its most potent imagery to build the foundation of a new Christian visual world. The grammar of Roman symbols provided the vocabulary for this new faith, allowing complex theological ideas to be communicated to a largely illiterate populace through a beautiful, universally understood code. The secret messages did not vanish. They were simply redirected toward a different kind of eternity. Centuries later, this dormant language would be unearthed and celebrated once more. The Renaissance, with its passionate rediscovery of classical learning and art, did not just copy Roman statues and architecture, it eagerly revived the symbolic code hidden within them. Renaissance masters, steeped in humanist scholarship, understood that classical art was a text to be read, not just admired. When Sandro Botticelli painted his masterpiece, The Birth of Venus, he was not merely illustrating a myth. He was embedding it with the same kind of layered, philosophical meaning a Roman patron would have expected from a mosaic. The goddess, born from the sea foam, is a complex symbol of both divine love and the Neoplatonic idea of spiritual rebirth, a concept that would have been instantly decipherable to his educated patrons in the Medici court. The zephyrs blowing her to shore, the nymph waiting with a cloak, Every element is part of a carefully constructed allegory, a direct inheritance of the Roman practice of using mythological imagery to convey personal and intellectual beliefs. The canvas became the new mosaic floor, a space for displaying worldly sophistication, philosophical depth, and hidden messages. This revival reveals a crucial truth. Roman mosaics were not a dead end. They were a vital link, a reservoir of symbolic meaning that was preserved, transformed by the medieval church, and then unleashed back into the world by the Renaissance. The basic grammar of hiding profound ideas within beautiful scenes, a practice perfected in Roman tile, became a foundational principle of Western art for the next 1,000 years. The stones of ancient floors taught artists how to speak in secrets, a whispered conversation that continues in our galleries and museums to this day. Our journey across the Roman world has revealed that these floors were never silent. We have walked through British villas and North African palaces, listening as the stones whispered the ambitions of emperors, the pride of merchants, the faith of believers, and the quiet signatures of the artisans who laid them. These were not mere decorations, they were complex texts, a sophisticated language where a single dolphin could guide a soul to the afterlife or simply celebrate the pleasure of a bath. They were philosophical arguments, political campaigns, and personal prayers, all woven together in a tapestry of colored glass and stone. The next time you see a photograph of a Roman mosaic, pause for a moment. Look past the beautiful surface. That intricate geometric border is not just a frame, it is a cosmic map. That chaotic hunting scene is a boast of wealth and a meditation on mastering your own inner chaos. What appears to be a simple decoration is, in fact, a dense and layered message, a story patiently waiting for a curious mind to finally unlock its secrets. The Roman Empire may have crumbled into history, but its hidden voices are still speaking to us, rising from the ground beneath our feet. If you were to design a floor for your own home, what secret message would you choose to leave behind for the future? Share your thoughts in the comments, and join us next time for another journey into the world's ancient mysteries.